for? So we're going to need something. So what's that nice relationship we know? We know x is equal to something, and we know y is equal to something. What is it? What's x equal to? R what? R cosine theta, and y is equal to what? Are we 100% sure of that? Or is it r sine theta and r cosine theta? Which one? Is this it? Awesome. So do we have a value for r?
Yes.
So where do we plug that in? For r. So now what do we have? We now have x equals e to the theta cosine theta, and y is equal to e to the theta sine theta. So what do we need to find now? What do we need to do now? We did one of these yesterday. What do we need to do now? Exactly, Josh. Exactly. So what differentiation rule do we need to use? Product rule. Exactly. So x prime of theta is going to be the derivative of the first times the second plus what? The first times the derivative of the second. What's the derivative of cosine? Negative sine of theta. And what's y prime equal to? The derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. How did I do right there? The question I need to write is the integral from what to what? It tells you what it's from. From theta equals pi over 2 to theta equals. So what are the limits of integration? Exactly. So it's going to be pi over 2 to pi of what? These two things, right? But what do I do with these two things? Square root them. But what do I do to each of them first? I do each of them first, right? So I'm just going to keep pasting like this. It's kind of fun. So I take each of these, right? And you do what to them? Square them and what? Add them together and take the square root. So yes, is this long? Oh, that is not what I wanted to have happen, but that's okay. And you do this. Excellent. So theta squared, pull it out from the square root, it becomes e theta. So what does this actually become? E to the, oh wait, you can't pull it all the way out, excuse me. It becomes pi over 2 to pi e to the theta times the square root of cosine theta minus what? Sine theta squared plus sine theta plus squared d theta. I think that's what it becomes, like that. Nice. So this is, so the question is, what do you do at this point? What should you do at this point?
Cosine squared theta minus.
Well, give me a verb here. I want a verb here. What should I do? Give me a verb.
It.
Expand. Thank you. Just expand it. You might want to try to find some pattern. You might want to find some shortcut. Just expand it and see what happens, because you're hoping that a bunch of things. What do you hope happens?
Cancel.
You hope a whole bunch of things cancel, right? So what do you end up with? Cosine squared theta minus 2 cosine theta sine theta plus what? Sine squared theta plus sine squared theta plus 2 sine theta cosine theta plus what? Cosine squared theta. So what do we, that looks terrible, but it's actually pretty good. Yeah, this and this are the same, right? So those cancel. And then what do you have here? You have this one and this one summed together to get 1, right? And this one summed together to get what?
1.
So what does this actually equal here? It equals, the whole thing equals 2, right? So what do you end up with? The square root of 2 pi over 2 to pi of e theta d theta. So does this one cancel really nicely? Yeah, that's about as nice as it gets. That's about as nice as it gets. So then the integral is that, so we end up with what? Root 2 times e to the pi minus e to the pi over 2. Done. So this one could be a good thing to do first on this one. If you were totally lost about what to do, what's a good thing you could try to do first? Before you even plug anything in, before you even write anything, what could you do?
Write the formula?
Nope. Well, sure, you could write down what you know, but what could you do? Draw it. You could try drawing this. It's actually really important that you know what this looks like. R equals theta. So as theta increases, what happens to R? It increases. So what does this look like if you had to use one word? Spiral. Exactly. It's a spiral. So as theta increases, so as theta goes this way, the radius gets what? Bigger. As theta gets bigger, r gets bigger. As theta gets bigger, r gets bigger. So this is spiral going out. Does it go clockwise or counterclockwise? It's a spiral like this. Yay. That's r equals theta. For what value of a is the area enclosed by r equals theta from theta equals 0 to theta equal a equal to 1? So at some point, theta is equal to a, like a degrees or a radians, and they want to know when is that area right there equal to 1. Nice. They've given you alpha and beta. What's alpha? From what? Where does it start? It starts at 0, and what does this go to? What theta value does it go to? It goes to a, and what is our r value? It is theta, right? And what are you doing to that? You're squaring it, d theta, and what is this supposed to equal? What are you setting it equal to? 1. So you need to solve for a on this right here. It's all about the setup on this question. It's all about the setup on this question, not about the calculus. Can you integrate this pretty easily? Hopefully. What's it going to be? 1/3 theta cubed from what? 0 to a equals 1. So what is that? 1/6 a cubed equals 1. Is that correct? So a cubed is equal to 6. So what does a equal? The cube root of 6. Asked about 45. On this one, it's just asking you to prove the general formula. So look, R is this from alpha to beta. So you're from alpha to beta like that. So it's you use the formula in the with the general equations. That's it. And what happens here? You do the dx d theta, and what do you have to use here? You have to use the product rule. Hey, did we do something similar before? We just did one where the sines and cosines. What happened? They turned into root 2 before. So you have this thing. You have r equal f of theta. So what is dx d theta going to be? Well, it's going to be f prime theta cosine minus f prime theta sine. And then what can you end up? Oh, look at this. You get to here. Is it going to get really big really quick? Yeah, it's going to get huge. Because what did they do from line 2 to line 3 here? What did they do from here to here? One word. Expand. Right? They multiplied this out. So when you expand it, what do you end up getting? Cosine squared plus sine squared and cosine squared plus sine squared. Both of them are 1. And then you're left with this right here. All they're doing is asking you to take the definition with the general form and be really careful. This is really long right here. That's really long.
How are we supposed to have the intuition to know the sine and cosine?
How are you supposed to? Because the definition, because the, let me pause this. Good, okay, so you have a pizza slice that is 1/8 of a circle and 1/8 of a circle of radius 1 foot. The slice is in the first quadrant with one edge along the x-axis and the center of the pizza at the origin. Give inequalities describing this region in polar and rectangular coordinates. So the first thing you should do is what? What should you do first? Draw it. You must draw it. So there's 8 pieces all the way around. So what's the angle measure going to be?
45.
Yes, perfect. Good harmony there. Excellent. So there's your pizza slice. Generally speaking, everybody, use radians instead of degrees. By default, you should be using radians instead of degrees. And it tells you, what is this, 1 foot radius? So from there to there is 1. So for a polar inequality, you need 2 inequalities. You need an inequality for for r, and you need an inequality for theta. So this entire region, if you had to describe this region right here with a set of inequalities, meaning what are all of the points that satisfy this region right here? What are all of the points that satisfy this region right here? We're not doing an integral. These are inequality. It asks for an inequality, right? Give inequalities. Inequalities right here. Inequalities. What are they going to be? R goes for, what's the smallest R value in that region? 0. What's the largest R value in that region? 1. And what's the smallest theta value? 0. And what's the biggest theta value? Pi over 4. So that would be it in polar form. That would be it in polar form right there. Yes, Yana?